everyone, and welcome back to World Cup 2019. Welcome back to Huntimansisk.
Welcome.
So, round two, game two, that's what we're going to be covering today with 11 decisive games yesterday. It will be very, very interesting day to follow because we have a lot of players who have to level the score.
Yep.
One of them being Hikaru Nakamura, crowd favorite, and there have been quite a few those upsets where the underdog, or at least a nominal underdog, the player with lower rating, wins his game one. So.
No, we have to follow those games first and foremost. Of course, when action picks up on other boards, we'll devote our attention to that. All right, so 11 games. Indeed. Well, one wonders, how many of those 11 guys who face an elimination will be able to extend their matches.
Not that those who made draw in first game will make a second draw. It's not a guarantee as well.
It's not a guarantee. Besides, we had quite a few games where the underdogs had the white pieces yesterday, and they started off cautiously, and now it's time for the favorites to make the push in the return game.
Yeah, Linnea Dominguez comes to mind, for instance, against Nijat Abbasov. Yesterday there wasn't much of a game, so Abbasov with white has played something very well known, very solid, so it was draw in some 14 minutes from the start. But today Linnea is going to have white and it will be a different story.
Same goes for Anish Giri, although it wasn't for the lack of trying on the part of Evgeny Nair. He played a long game, but now, Anish gets the white pieces.
Quite a few interesting matchups, and we are reminded of the two guys who kept us busy yesterday, Luke McShane and Daniil Jufa. So Jufa today has the black pieces. There was a roller coaster game yesterday with Jufa missing a direct win couple of times and then winning chances in this two bishops versus knight endgame.
Yeah, which is a rare guest, So I wonder what they have in store for us today. Okay.
Right, Sam Savian leaving his board on your screen. He has lost his game against Sergei Karyakin, so today with the white pieces he has to try to level the score once again. And Hikaru Nakamura, of course.
Yep. Right there. Yes, Savian has a mountain to climb. Going against Karyakin, whose experience in such situations cannot be understated. All right, I'm also looking at the top board here, but here we have a general view of our tournament hall. You see a lot of familiar faces, but some faces that are not yet that familiar. There are quite a few people who make their debut at this World Cup. Some of them, I think, for years to come.
Yeah, some of them very, very successfully, like, for instance, Nihal Sarin from India, the youngest player so far on perfect 3 out of 3 score. So he won his first match against Jorge Corey from Peru 2-0, and yesterday he won his game against Iltaj Safarli. So Safarli, once again, is one of those players who has to win back in order to keep the match going.
Speaking of the 3 out of 3, there have been remarkable streaks of winning games in regulation. And the one I recall was Veselin Topalov's performance in 2004, where eventually he had to bow down to the winner of the tournament, eventual winner, Rustam Kasimdzhanov. Topalov, if I am not mistaken, had 9.5 out of 10 coming to that match.
But then made 2 draws with Kasimdzhanov and got knocked out in the rapid.
Yeah, there is some downside in winning all of your matches in regulation, because nobody ever won the World Cup without getting into the tie breaks. And some, I don't think so.
Never ever?
Never ever. I don't think that it's ever going to happen. So you need some kind of practice, if you wish.
Yeah, now that I'm trying to recall, apparently you're right. What I can remember, it's Women's Knockout World Championship where Anna Muzichuk reached the final, not playing a single tiebreak.
Yes.
But then she lost the final.
Tanzania, yes, that I remember quite well. No, she didn't win. Even Anand, during his glorious performances in Groningen, and then 3 years later at his home turf in New Delhi, well, he had to go through some tie breaks, and some of them were quite dramatic for him, particularly when he faced Alexander Khalifman.
Right, so as you can see, the games have started, so let us look at the pairings list, and then we'll, as well as the results, and then we'll proceed to analyze some chess there. So once again, a reminder, Ding Liren is the top seed in the tournament, had no problem winning his match in the first round, but yesterday it was quite an alarming sign, because he got a very comfortable position.
Oh, fantastic.
Probably much better position at some point, and then I don't know what happened. We missed a certain part of this game, but when we returned, he was the one looking for a draw. Yeah, he was lost at some point.
At one moment. So somewhere he lost the thread of the game, and his pawn sacrifice I liked, and it was suggested by you, Evgeny, and Ding did exactly as what we expected him to do, but somehow maybe it just didn't pan out. Sometimes the chess throws an unexpected turn at you, and then maybe there wasn't anything decisive for White. Anyway, Tomaszewski, I was very impressed with his performance. After that bishop ending that he won.
On a tiebreak, yeah.
On a tiebreak, that was really a classic. Then he won a very nice game with black against my new favorite player, Chiram Aravind, and with the black pieces nonetheless.
Yeah. And Wei is one of the Elo favorites who has to win, who is in a must-win situation, and this time against David Anton Guijarro with the black pieces, because Wei lost with white.
Wei could have lost in the first round. His play of the players of high pedigree seems a little loose in this tournament, so he is vulnerable, but now it's time for him to abandon all caution, and I'm kind of curious how he's going to handle the opening.
Yeah, but the feeling, Alex, about Wei, I mean, okay, I think we discussed like on day one, so he's very talented and stuff, but he has never had this, solid style of those 27 plus players. I mean, very often being over 2700 rated means that, well, you just don't lose to some people. You're solid enough that, say, 26 guys, they cannot beat you at all.
Right.
And Wei doesn't have it. So he can win the game against anyone, literally, in the world, but he can lose to some, he can drop some unexpected points.
Well, that's why he plateaued, Well, I remind you, of course, that he reached 2700 mark. Well, I think when he was 15 years old.
Yeah, quite a few years ago.
Then, he had plenty of time to get that solid thing, that you just talked about. And it never seemed to have happened yet. And that's the reason why his progress has slowed down. Karyakin versus Sevian. Sevian is facing a must-win situation.
Right, so, more results out of the top seeds. Only Maxim Vachier-Lagrave has won his game against Igor Kovalenko, and I'm just noticing the Elo difference, which is precisely 100 points.
But then we have Levon Aronian, who won a very nice game with the black pieces against Parham Masudlu, and seems in a very comfortable position now for qualification.
And once again, a reminder that Hikaru Nakamura will have to play for a win at all cost. Any more results? Mamedyarov beating Kasimdzhanov. Speaking of those who are on 3 out of 3, Shah Mamedyarov is on 3 out of 3, as well as Michal Sarin, whom we have already mentioned.
And Duda, I don't recall exactly if he won 2-0 or 1.5 in the first round, but what I remember, it was very comfortable and never in doubt. And he won his first game against Tamir Nabati, and is looking good for qualification as well.
Right, and that's it. Was it the last?
That's it.
Yeah, I think that was the last list. So, Alex, do we have anything?
I don't know. Where do you want to go?
That should be immediately brought to the screen. Well, despite we have like Elo favorites, big guns and everything, I want to see table 14, which is Hikaru Nakamura with white.
Well, yeah, that certainly is a good start.
To see what opening this is going to be. Because, Hikaru can play pretty much anything. That's not... pretty
Here we
much
go.
anything. So e4, and then remember I said that, yes, Nisipiano doesn't seem to have very solid choice for black, but then I remembered that he does have
He does have the Petrov.
does have the Petrov.
Livio Dieter, has a wide opening repertoire, as most grandmasters who often play in open tournaments. And, he's no stranger to playing something he doesn't know everything about. So his choices are always particular for this tournament match situation and for particular opponent. So this is what he did. And the knight c3 line, which become as popular as I'm talking this position as the standard move d4, mainly through efforts of Peter Svidler, Sergei Karyakin, Yan Nepomniachtchi, who had Vladimir Kramnik on their sides. At the time, Kramnik played the Petrov all the time and seemed unbeatable. Yet, they hurt him a few times, if you remember, with that knight c3 move. And ever since, the main proponent and supporter of this variation and the driver of the opening theory on the black side of the Petrov became world's number 2, Fabiano Caruana, of course.
Yeah, we can say so.
Yeah, when he made the switch for the candidates to the Petrov, he had tremendous success. And he was tested in his match against Magnus Carlsen and in this particular line. And this is the way he handled it.
c5?
With knight
d7, knight f6 first, yeah. Maybe we have to, or not have to, but we might want to go 2 moves back, because that was a choice for black to play with castle short, which is kind of more sharp position, or you can play with castle long. And Caruana did both. In the candidates,
but he lost to Karyakin.
Yeah, in the candidates, he lost to Karyakin with
critical game, which allowed Sergei to take the lead and forced Fabiano into must-win situation. And credit goes to him; he got the job done. But I don't think that Fabiano really wants to repeat that experience, but of course we're not talking Caruana here. Interesting that Nisipiano, probably due to his style, which is considerably a sharper style than many, preferred the late
thing,
the late Caruana choice.
Right, but so far not much to talk in this position. I believe c5 exists.
C5 does exist.
Might transpose to the same thing with knight d7, knight f6.
And then I think it's bishop d3.
Bishop d3 or king b1. I mean,
and c5.
Bishop d3 you have to play, yes, c5. And
c5.
Here you have any given move possible, like king b1, rook h to e1.
It actually gets quite sharp, because black, of course, is going to move the d pawn forward where it becomes vulnerable. And there are some tactics over there. Some of those tactics are based on the position of the white king that is not protecting the pawn on a2. Therefore, the move you mentioned, Evgeny, king b1, is often played.
Right. So can we see both 21, one of those who has to level the score, but with the black pieces, Wei, because I was told he came up with a very strange opening choice. So
who's playing?
Scroll down, Wei.
Oh yeah, Wei.
So he's below Nakamura, I think.
Yeah, below, but I went too far.
You went too far?
Yeah, I went too far, but I'll...
So it's Anton Guijaro versus Wei on board 21.
Yes.
And you should look for a weird position. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, only 3 moves, but I just want to point out this position. Yes, I mean, sometimes you're playing with black, you are in a must-win situation, you might as well go 3h5. Just attack the king.
Yeah, h5. No, the attack doesn't necessarily have to materialize. It's a little bit of a testing move, see white's reaction. Well, there are 3 possible ways, I suppose, to deal with this. It's either put the knight on f3, slowing down the black pawn, going to h4, or moving the h-pawn, 1 or 2 squares. Every each of them leads to their particular situations. Interesting to see. Yeah,
well, interesting now. How do you react to h5? Yeah, I understand it's like we are talking position after 3 moves, but...
Yeah, no possibilities. All right, so we made his choice, and now Anton is sitting there thinking. All right, so suppose he goes h3, which is kind of a reaction preferred by many positional players, because they want to take away the g4 square. One possibility could be, say, we throw in d6, knight c3, and then, without further delay, here we go. Good or bad, I don't know. Obviously, this issue of surrendering the e4 square, but opening up the white king side a little bit and hoping maybe even to castle long. It's one of those things.
And if you play h4, then you give black the g4 square, right?
It is hard to tell, of course, because a lot depends on the situation. But in general, since black's play more often develops on the king side, no, this development may be in black's favor in some way.
Yeah, because black is still very flexible. Maybe that's the point he's trying to make, because it really depends. Like if black has the knight on e7, then it probably favors white. Knight is far away from g4. White can play, say, knight h3, knight g5. But black is very flexible, so he can choose how exactly he wants his pieces to be developed.
Right. One possibility. We all know that in such positions, white sends forward the b pawn to drive the knight away from c6. And sometimes a strange setup with one king's knight going to g4 and the queen's knight from c6 coming to e7, f5. Creating distinct possibility of a sacrifice. Yeah. It's one of possible plans over there. But for that, the situation has to be determined, which is not yet, because Anton is taking his sweet time, as he should.
Yeah. On board 26, a bit lower, where Safarli needs to win against Nihal Sarin. I was told the opening is also quite interesting. Wow.
No, well...
Captain's Gambit.
Yeah, Captain Evans, welcome back to 21st century. You sailed the high seas, and now you arrived in our shores.
Right. So, well, what are we referring to as Evans' Gambit? It's move b4 on move 4 after black says, I want to play the Italian. Quiet game, and so on.
We should also mention Garry Kasparov, who single-handedly brought this move back into the 20th century. Well, achieving some success, although he didn't really stay with the Evans. He played it a few times.
So bishop takes is considered to be the main move, but then, I believe, at times when Kasparov was playing, it was considered that you have to go bishop e7, right?
But
d4 and knight a5.
Yeah, but the old Lasker recommendation, which was to play bishop a5, has never been really refuted. It just was trendy, fashionable to go to e7. I don't really know, well, don't remember, actually. I think I studied it a little bit a few years ago, but kind of hazy now.
Yeah, there was a lot of brilliant games won after, say, d4, e takes, castle short, that's like good old times, but yeah, it's not that...
Now this way. No, well, there's certain awkwardness in black's setup with the queen on d7, but it's... No, this is what they do. You have to protect f7.
And not on e7, because then white takes and has bishop a3 with the tempo, right? White takes on e5.
There is always this bishop a3, which is the, you might say, one of the main ideas of the Evans, to put the bishop out there. All right, not quite sure what's happening now. Black has to play a move. Obviously, they cannot develop their knight to e7. So, if the knight goes to f6 in this position, do you remember what happens?
Well, I don't know. I cannot possibly remember because I've never studied this one. But what I would do, I would take on e5 and then play bishop a3, I guess. Unless black is planning to... No, taking on e4 is too much, right?
Well, it usually doesn't work very well with queen d7.
Well, like opening the position and putting your queen...
Yeah, queen d7. Queen d7 is almost like the old... Wilhelm Steinitz approach, as he practiced in his games, because he was trying to make a point. He wasn't only trying to play the best moves, being world champion and whatnot. He was also trying to make a point that that positions that were considered indefensible, they were actually defensible. And he didn't always succeed. The games that he lost to his rival Mikhail Chigorin in the Telegraph match, that was the Evans Gambit.
Right, so. But looking now, like taking a second look at this picture, I think knight f6 is just not a move. So you probably should prefer bishop b6, putting pressure on d4 and preparing knight a5. I think that's one of the points of going to d7.
I believe this is the move.
This is the move.
Okay, this is about as far as I can follow modern theory, circa the year 1885. So, pardon me, it's not that fresh in my memory. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so then it's bishop b5. But wait, but then there is something with a6, and if bishop goes to a4, a6, for instance.
Yeah,
if bishop goes to a4, I wonder if I can play some sort of bishop a7. It's a slow move, but I'm preparing b5.
No, there is something like this. Well, I'm not sure. Let the game develop.
But
I think
just my point was that it is a very interesting and a rare opening on the
right. Besides, maybe
level.
it's a good choice because how much time Nihal Sarin had in his life to study chess. I'm sure the Evans was not the high priority opening for him to learn.
Yeah, it's like...
So maybe he just didn't get there yet. So from that point of view, good practical choice.
Now that I'm thinking, okay, the young gentleman, he's playing e5. So it's such a broad variety of openings. And nowadays, mostly you spend your time studying
Gioco
piano and a system against a system against the Rui Lopez. I don't know. He doesn't seem to play Berlin. Probably he does something else.
Well, speaking of weird openings when you play because you have to, I want to briefly show a game between Tomaszewski and Aravind. Well, the Chigorin defense, it's a rare guest in top tournaments, particularly since retirement of Alexander Morozevich. No proponent of this opening of high pedigree. Yet, no, right, it was played because of the match situation. And here we go. And knight c3, which is a sharp reply, considerably sharper than the usual capture on d5. And then you get this. No, still it's going to be pretty tough for black to rattle Tomaszewski.
But that was his own choice, I think, because after knight c3, this is not what's considered to be sharp, right?
Of course
black takes on... What's the move?
Well, of course
it takes on c4 is the sharp move, yeah?
No, which leads to Queen's Gambit accepted.
With knight c6.
Knight c6, the line that I played quite a few times, know a little bit about it. Well, so e6 is sort of inconsistent with the choice of the opening and the match situation.
Yeah, we'll try to play some cards, but I'm in a must-win situation, plus my knight is on c6, which is a weird thing to have in cards.
Plus I'm playing against Tomaszewski.
Who is super solid.
Of course. So, I don't know about the chances of success.
For Aravind, it will be a tough job, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, what else among the matchups, or the must-win matchups? I don't see any of those at the bottom.
No. There's been a lot of draws on the bottom of the cross table. Well, Dubov-Firouzja, even though it was a draw, can we, since we are very close to this game, can we just check what goes on in this game?
It is somewhat unusual, although it starts with the popular Rossolimo variation, and the G6 line that once again came in the front through the efforts of Magnus Carlsen. There were times that more people played e6 than g6. Now it's back to g6 after Carlsen's success against Caruana in the match.
Well, I'm sorry, but I might have something to say, to correct the timeline of this G6 popularity, because it was actually Dubov who was the second of Carlsen, and Dubov has played it before Magnus picked it up.
No, it's understandable.
In fact, it was Boris Gelfand playing G6 even before that, and he also worked with Dubov. So Dubov, despite being a young lad, he's the guy who brought the whole thing out.
No, clearly. I was more referring to a little bit earlier when, how does Rossolimo come about? It's basically a weapon against the Sveshnikov variation. Okay, now, Gelfand, of course, plays the Sveshnikov, but he always played the Naidorf. So he wasn't getting this, say, of 15 years ago. He didn't really play a whole lot of Sveshnikov variation.
In his match with Anand?
Well, yeah,
I think that was Bishop b5.
Yeah, that's the switch that he made for the match. Before that, it was mainly Shirov and Kramnik.
Yep.
So those guys, they like T6, although Kramnik played both. No, anyway, the question is mood. The thing is that in the match, mostly, and in other games, through efforts also of Sergei Rublevsky, who's a known
Bishop
expert
takes
on
C6 was
immediate
by
capture.
far the most popular move.
So
yeah.
Firouzja's choice, it's kind of a classical choice, trying to build up the center with C3.
Shall we call it Rossolimo choice? Because I think when Nicholas Rossolimo was playing this bishop b5 thing, he was not intending to trade the bishop. He wanted to play c3 d4.
Well, yes, he wanted to play like in the Roy Lopez, to complete his development. Put
I
the
don't
rook
know
on
what you are playing. I'm playing the Spanish. E4, knight f3, bishop b5, castle.
Well,
c3 and rook e1. Look, I mean, it's like white plays the Spanish opening. I mean, they're really
look, Rossolimo didn't have the time to study two openings between his shifts working as a taxi driver in New York City. He didn't have that much time. So he developed a universal method against both answers, e5 and c5. So here you go. And that move queen b6. And now a4. That's interesting. So black makes the bishop decide. And now a capture with the pawn.
That is surprising, to be honest.
Perhaps the reason is that the white a-pawn move may be an attempt to make a statement on the b file in certain situations. Interesting, very interesting. Well, most people would think if you bother to move the queen, then you
take with the queen. So that's precisely what I thought. Like,
not the case.
Since, well, it's very convenient. You have the queen on b6. Why don't you take with the queen?
No, the answer probably was in this move. I don't know if it's a good idea to take
d4,
on d4.
And then say d5 immediately, I guess.
It's entirely possible, but I'm just guessing. I really cannot tell much.
Yeah, so that would have been a different game. Let's agree on that. Yeah, so bc6, of course, since, as you've mentioned, a4 was played, so b pawn is kind of a backward pawn for white. It does make sense. Yeah.
Now, we get this position, which is very familiar for those who played g6 against Rossolimo. The only strange thing is the a-pawns, actually the white a-pawn.
But there is nothing wrong with it.
No, nothing wrong, but let's think about it. Black went queen b6 and queen back to d8. What white did in the meantime is two moves with the a-pawn. So that's the difference between this and rather known theoretical position, which had happened dozens of times. Same position, only with the pawn on a2. If you ask me who benefits from the white pawn being on a5, I don't know. We'll probably find out.
Well, it really depends. Yeah, if white has the knight on c4 somehow, then he's very happy. He's threatening knight b6. Well, this structure, when I've seen it first, I actually thought it was the other line, which, by the way, Dubov does play from time to time. The line with f5, g6, bishop b5, g6, after castle, when they take on c6, that's kind of a modern tabby of this. B takes.
Yes.
Castles, bishop g7, rook e1. It might be very similar. Yeah, knight to h6, I guess.
And f6.
Knight to h6. No. Knight to h6, c3 castles. And then, first they were playing d4, but it turns out c takes d5 is fine. So white comes up with h3, kind of a waiting move.
True.
And then you have the whole lot of theory in d5, d3 variation. Right. And you have this move f5.
Played by Nakamura against Caruana.
Naka played it, but I remember quite a few games of Dubov playing this. f5, Dubov. E5, and knight to f7.
Yeah, indeed, you're making this point, and I cannot agree more with you, that Dubov just invents things, despite his still young age, his contribution to modern chess theory is great. And he keeps on doing this. All right. Okay, we should keep our close eye on this because I'm really curious about this matchup. All right, back to top boards and see what we've got.
Top boards. Out of top boards, it's not going. Not much is going on in this game. Movsesyan Ding Liren on board 1.
No, well, that's an old classical line of the Scotch game, and it often comes to this. Black disregards the creation of the double pawns, and just like Magnus Carlsen did in his games. But then it gives white options to play solid, and it's almost impossible for black to do anything. So let me hazard a guess that we're going to see these guys tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see Mavsishian losing this to anybody.
Yeah, it's like a bit boring line, but it is still possible to play, say, well, not more aggressive, but to play the game, to drag it on. On move 10, if you don't go bishop g5.
Yeah.
Yeah, after, well, this is the position that like 90% of those games started with 4 knights d4. Well, they reached this position. But then you have this setup, which I believe was invented by Kramnik, h3, queen f3 thing.
Yes, yes,
and
of
then
course.
It is much more complex.
No, it's a choice anyway. Choice was made. So, as I said, very unlikely that we will ever return to this game today.
Yeah. But what I want to say that after bishop g5, c6, queen f3, black doesn't really have a choice. Even if he would be aggressive, Dean Gleeran, you can't do much.
You can't do this.
You can't do
this. And look at the move order. He didn't go d4 immediately, which gives black a wider choice of options. So he kind of tricked him into the 4 knights.
Yeah, but that's how you do it, Alex. Because if you played,
Yeah, because if you play d4 here, then in the sketch there is the bishop c5,
and he has bishop c5,
or queen f6, the move that some people play. But here the choices are much less wide for black. So anyway, match strategy in action for Sergei Mavsisyan. All right, so now once again we see that early move knight d5, little bit different twist. There is no pawn on g3. We talked about this, I believe, yesterday. White sometimes puts the knight on d5. I'm referring in particular to a game Dubov Firouzja.
Yeah.
Gary knows it exceptionally well. This not only this particular plan with knight d5 and various variations. So, testing waters for
White's the move, yeah. So how was the move? What was the move already here? So it's bishop b4 on move 2, and then simply queen c2, knight f6, knight to f3, knight to c6, knight to d5, bishop c5, and give you thinking.
No, the thing is that against other moves such as e3 or capture on c3, well, usually happens pretty soon. And then there's some theoretical variations stemming out of that. But knight d5, yes, this move exists, it's not a novelty. And now white has different options, and we'll let Anish show us what he has prepared. I'm curious about this game. I know that Igor Kovalenko is a huge underdog now, particularly after losing yesterday. He put in a good defensive effort, but it wasn't enough against Vashieva Graf. And now he's playing some kind of anti-Najdorf, extremely strange looking thing.
But what is f3?
Well, that's what he played.
Why would you go f3?
Because he wants to avoid the Najdorf. What move can black play if he wants his Najdorf? Would that be a6? Because if you go g6, you're not in the Najdorf, you're in the dragon. Why just delays the move d4?
But can't black really
e5?
Just stop the whole thing by going e5. Yeah, this is what I don't understand.
Yeah, well, I would expect e5, but surprising twist in this game. Maxime played d5. Going
fine
French. Fine, because the f3 move looks absolutely useless. And now suddenly we go to I don't even know what. Is that some kind of a delayed Scandinavian center counter, as it's sometimes called e4, d5?
Yeah.
What is that we have? What is it?
d4, c takes, and what? And bishop e3?
e3.
E6 first. Bishop e3 takes on d4, queen takes d4.
Yeah, but can we consider this a realistic attempt to play for an advantage with white? Sometimes we get similar positions because when white plays f3 in the Sicilian, setting up his English attack, black sometimes is allowed to play d5, and then some of those endgames could be unpleasant for black, but I'm not sure about this one. I really cannot tell. So what to do here? Are we supposed to capture on d4?
Yeah, perhaps. Why would you need the queens on the board, right? I think you take and you play this a6 like they do in the...
Right.
How does that compare to French with knight d2?
I don't know. The pawn on f3 just completely skewers my perception of this position. I just cannot fit it into any of known to me concepts. What to get out of this f3 move? I agree with a6 because if you go bishop d7, setting up knight c6, then possibly white should try to get the bishop pair if he can.
Knight b5, this might be unpleasant.
Of course. So therefore we're focusing on a6, and now how? I mean, obviously the pawn can go to f4 to clear out the long diagonal for the white bishop, but perhaps not in time to prevent bishop d7, knight c6.
That's like, say, we play bishop e2, or start with f4, just start with f4, yeah.
Bishop d7.
Bishop d7, yeah.
Right.
You want to
bishop e2.
Bishop e2, knight c6, and bishop f3,
Bishop
right?
f3.
And black is just on time to play rook c8, maybe that's the... Or bishop c5. Yeah, it simplifies, well, it's getting simplified quite a bit.
I mean, I don't know what white can possibly... White still has some pressure. The rook will come to e1 and maybe thinking f5.
Maybe enough pressure, you know. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm not sure what black has to do here. Bishop e7 or what? Start taking on d4, then I leave the pawn on b7 hanging. Yeah, this might be something.
It's always pleasant for white, those endgames, when he's able to castle long. It creates some kind of imbalance in the position. Many of those endgames, because the pawn structure isn't symmetrical. White has his king where it needs to be for the action on the queen side,
yeah.
And black feels under pressure, and they may not always be able to keep their king in the center. And when they evacuate the king to g8 via short castle, then the king finds himself far away from action. So there is some justification to this play, and we'll keep on looking at this.
So how about those Aronian with Maksudlu, Mamedyarov with Kasimdzhanov? Those should be interesting games.
I've got as far as Levon Aronian's game.
What's that?
It's called the exchange variation.
Exchange French? From Aronian?
Yeah. Well, he did start with d4, but after e6 he thought, okay, if I go c4, my opponent has nothing to lose, so he's going to play the English defense with b6, and I'm not sure I want that.
Yeah, so he went e4, and
so he went e4, and then leaving black with
d5. He went for the exchange French.
Yeah.
Which is curious. I mean, which is interesting. I'm curious if Levon really wants to just like be solid, make a draw.
I guess he's looking beyond this, you know. Well, I mean, qualification is the most important thing. Obviously, no, it's nice to keep it going and do anyhow serene on your opponents, but well, objectively speaking, you need to qualify and make sure you are staying here in Khanty-Mansiysk.
Yeah,
and for that, you know, all right, Levon recently started playing e4, mainly in rapid and blitz events, part of Grand Chess Tour, so he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing, I understand. It's just that, knight f3, and black went for knight c6, therefore no c4, because I was wondering why didn't he went for c4 line, which is
could have done it right away, but
it's somewhat challenging. Yeah?
From Parham's point of view, he has to break up symmetry somehow, so he had to play knight c6. And I can also mention that's considered good strategy for black in the exchange French not to stay symmetrical, and also brings to mind this rather famous game long time ago, the last interzonal ever, played by the old FIDE rules system of qualification. It was played, I believe, in '93 in Switzerland and Biel. And going to the last round, a popular grandmaster, Mikhail Gurevich, who represented many countries during his illustrious career, was really on the cusp of qualification. And he had to make a draw with white. His opponent was Nigel Short.
Yeah, and
No.
Misha Gurevich played exchange French and he
Yeah,
lost,
which was probably a
Remember the story.
mistake, yeah.
Okay, not trying to criticize Levon, but
no.
he doesn't seem to be this type of player who can, just give up the chances for the advantage, just go and make a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, he always, I don't know if he always been, but he always felt very creative and,
Indeed.
player who loves the game, who loves the fight.
It's a pressure on him, So, well, because he knows that the chess world, every time Levon Aronian sits at a chessboard, expects brilliancy. Not always success. Nobody wins all the time.
Yep.
But, well, he may feel a little uncomfortable finding himself in this role. But, no, well, here we go.
Knight c3, then going after this bishop. Queen c3, restricting the knight on c6, queen d7. So, well, kind of telegraphing that I'm planning to castle long.
That's a known plan, by the way.
Yep.
Well, it comes out of knight c6. It's always knight c6, knight e7, light square bishop out, queen d7. Now, knight c3, knight b5 is not what white always does. There's nothing wrong with that. But the game goes on. And we're making our next stop at this game where black is up a piece.
Was that? Kasimdzhanov has sacrificed the piece, yeah?
Yes.
Let's see.
I could have said that white is up 2 pawns, which would be the same thing, because it's an incomplete sentence. All right. Okay, let's see how it came about.
So, another Gioco Piano with h6.
h6,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a new thing that they play.
h6. And I thought that there hardly be any sacrifices. Remember we talked about bishop g5 and then h6, g5 and then sacrifices.
Okay, so what happens here?
Nothing the same thing that we talked about, that there are 10 different ways from Sunday, to transpose the moves. And a5, the move that Dingleren likes, prefers it to a6. Remember this game b3, a4? We had yesterday, who played it? I forgot. White pawn went to b3.
Yeah, I remember. It's just that I don't remember who were the players. Was it Yuan Yi?
Yeah,
it could
maybe.
be Yuan Yi.
So many games, guys. I'm really sorry about this.
But this, I'm sure it is a very well-known line. Bishop b5, and then some people play
queen b8.
Yeah, queen b8. You bring the queen to a7.
Exactly.
A lot of games there. Maxim Vashelograf played it with white. Magnus Carlsen has played it with white. And they were playing bishop e3, not rook e2, if I'm not mistaken. So there is one like a tabia position. Bishop to e3, black takes, white takes, black does something, white goes back to c4 with the bishop. And then they exchange the bishops and 4 knights. Somehow it's almost symmetrical, but white is just a tad more pleasant.
Yeah, because sometimes the black queen finds herself out of play, somewhat. Not completely out of play. So this is an attempt to use the queen more effectively, because the pressure against f2 produced the defensive move rook a2 and not much beyond it. So that's a logical continuation, forcing this exchange.
Takes, yes.
And now Kasimdzhanov's strategy is to try to take advantage of black queen's absence from the king's side, and he goes for it.
Knight f5, d5, and what? Takes.
Now maybe white comes to regret that the rook is on e2, because there is no immediate follow-up with queen f3 and so on. But the queen can also come from d2 to
g5.
Some things are possible here.
I'm 100% sure that white does not regret anything till that point, because he's on 1 hour 28.
Yeah.
So that means it was all home preparation.
From Kasimdzhanov, I can't believe it, really.
Why?
I can't believe that Kasimdzhanov prepared. I can't. That's right. Kasimdzhanov, I will remind our listeners, is one of the foremost experts on opening theory to be found anywhere. And he is currently helping Fabiana Caruana
And was helping Vishianand for a few years before that.
Many years. So I've been facetious about this. Of course, when Kasimdzhanov plays anything, he knows what he's doing. A little bit of concern shown by Mamedyarov's clock management. He is falling behind some 20 minutes, whatever. But here he is.
And it has to be said, Mamedярov, from what I remember his recent games, he's struggling to equalize in this Gioco Piano Italians. So he has lost a very, very important game in the final of Riga Grand Prix to Maxim Vyshyagraf. Then he almost lost. He got absolutely lost position against Vishianand in Singfield Cup in Grand Chess Tour. He's not very comfortable playing those positions.
Somehow, Shakhriyar always had great success on the black side of the Ruy Lopez. He had his collection of quirky little systems with early bishop g4, with the early move d6, the Stanis the third,
some g6.
Yeah,
I remember
G6
some g6
things.
move.
But somehow he doesn't get the freedom of choice when he faces a Gioco Piano, and maybe that bothers him a little bit. And now he's facing with particular preparations, so things are not going as planned. Although, we know Shakhriyar's great tactical ability and his cool and collective manner in which he operates under fire. So
what's speaking of this position, Black is a piece up. That's about as much as I can say about this paper. But what's the move? So bishop f8.
No, suppose I go back and old proven recipe.
Queen to c1 or queen to d2, one of those.
Hardly a visible difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
No, now the check is looking a little annoying. So
you probably go knight h7.
Knight h7. Now white can throw in knight h5, of course. Intending to capture on f8 and throw
and play queen h6.
Yeah. Okay, suppose and now it seems to me that maybe Black needs to establish
queen to c5
connection between the queen.
Therefore, I should have taken on f8 first.
All right, we're getting somewhere. We're starting to develop something.
So I take on f8 first, so that Black is not on time to take with the queen.
Taken with the king is probably not wise because of the check, and followed by knight h5.
So you take with the rook, perhaps?
But then
to have f7, f6. But then it's tricky once again.
Well, then that's the only defense over there, to bring the rook to f7.
And
f7
and there might be issues like queen h6, rook f7, f4. At least I can see that white is getting all of his pieces, attacking. Rook is shifting to f1.
There is also the rook lift. Useful. So anyway, I'm not sure. I know that Shakhriyar already spent a lot of time, but I don't think he's going to move until he figured something out.
Yeah,
so perhaps we have some time to visit other games and then we return. So please tell me where you want me to drive, which direction?
Oh, well, if you see anything interesting, once again, Naka and Nisipiano possibly, so both 13-14. There is Karyakin, Sevian, or rather Sevian, Karyakin, Sevian having the white pieces, same Nakamura having white pieces against Nisipiano. We can once again
maybe a short stop over to see how Ivan Cheparinov, Georgian Grandmaster, is trying to
board
get
11,
things going. Yeah.
And that's a joke, of course. You all know, guys, that Cheparinov is from Bulgaria. He was representing Bulgaria. It's just some problem with Bulgarian Chess Federation nowadays, and he has, I don't think he moved to Georgia. He just, plays it under Georgian flag. I mean, that's what
chess is a professional sport now, and with no strangers of people transferring from one club to another and one country to another, as football players and all that. Chess players shouldn't be an exception. One world. That's what it is. All right. So what we have here is the classical move order of Chebanenko-Slav and the move c5 that somehow fell out of fashion, but I remember the day when it was absolutely the main reply. White tried. And all right, g6. There were huge battles between Topalov and Kamsky.
Right, g6, however, is like a bit of a sideline, or now it is a main line. I'm not
Who
sure.
knows? It's up and down.
Remember, there was a lot of discussions in this knight bd7, bishop f4, knight h5. That was a theory back then.
Yes.
At some point.
And then white puts the bishop to g5 and then pulls back to d2. There are a lot of strange things over there.
Because here it looks like white is getting a chance to build his position, like bishop to f4, play h3 so that the bishop is not exchanged by means of knight h5, then e3, controlling the e5 square. But Artemiev says, well, I'm not impressed.
This has been played. This is not a novelty. Because black hardly has any play unless he plays e5, which sometimes the pawn sacrifice. And there you go.
Bishop g3.
Well, this is your pawn sacrifice. All right.
And then Artemiev's to move.
Yes.
This is weird, Alex, what I can tell you. You won game one. Artemiev won game one. And why would you play... I mean, okay, maybe that's a solid enough line, but why would you sacrifice a pawn here? Maybe there was
maybe he has something in mind, but he is taking his time. Well, Artemiev, again, Artemiev is not known for his affinity for studying openings. He tries to play everything, in some ways imitating the approach of Magnus Carlsen, always moving focusing his efforts on middle game and end game, and there's always a risk. Sometimes, I would say when Artemiev loses, like the way he lost to, somebody crushed him in the spectacular fashion. He had a long unbeaten streak and then he lost the game. He lost the game on the black side of the Najdorf. He got totally crushed.
Could be.
He was some grandmaster from India. Yeah, but I don't remember. Sometimes
grandmaster from India. That was Karpov's round robin, and this was Shashikiran.
Shashikiran, of course. Of course, it was Krishnan. I apologize. Well, anyway, so that's what happens with Vladislav. Sometimes he gets in trouble in the opening with the black pieces.
Yeah. So what's the move here? Because Queen e7 is very sharp, in fact. I mean, it looks like black is just getting back the pawn, but white has e6 here. And then, bishop d6 being the main point of it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, could it be that black is ready to sack an exchange? Like,
but what would he get for the exchange?
e6, bishop d6, queen d8 in a relaxed manner. And then I'm hoping
to take c5.
Bishop take e6. Yeah, I was not sure. Maybe even knight takes e6. Yeah.
But maybe
queen d8.
Yeah, knight takes e6 also possible, because here a knight a4 may protect the pawn. Okay, so let's go back and let's do it with the knight.
Takes,
with the knight.
Bishop to d6.
Bishop back, or queen back, this and that.
And queen takes.
And you guarantee the win of the c5 pawn alongside with your suddenly greenfold bishop.
Yeah, the bishop on g7 is great, and it has, like Kasparovish flavor to it, like Gary used to sack the exchange in some King's Indians.
So, I don't know, maybe that's the way you... I mean, chess is, clash of personalities, and style is character. We're learning things. Some of the younger players, we're just learning what they are. When we refer to and call it, that's Kasparovian move, or that's the Karpovian move, it's because that those people, they played for so many years, high visibility competition. About the young players, we don't know yet. They're developing themselves. And perhaps, some 20 years from now, we'll be talking about the Artemievian choice. So, let's watch and enjoy. Savian Karyakin.
Yeah, that's one of the games where American player has to win at all costs in order to stay in the match.
That's a Gioco Piano with bishop g5.
With bishop g5, but black did not castle yet. So that's again, that's yet another story. So black is not that impressed with this pin.
And
queen to e7 and g5. Yeah.
I recall a recent game, I believe it was played in Norway chess tournament. White was Jan Nepomniachtchi and black was Sergei Karyakin. Nepomniachtchi got off a blazing start, winning the first 3 games, leading the tournament. And then he had the white pieces against Sergei. and it was very similar. Sergei was extremely well prepared. He pushed forward with the J and H pawns, had, I believe, significant advantage. Jan barely survived this game, and his momentum was gone. And the tournament went astray for him, and he finished only at 50%.
Yep.
So this G5,
G3?
yeah, of course,
Knight
bishop,
to H5.
knight H5, and then
Bishop
that
D5,
one.
bishop to A7. Yeah.
Well, one would expect White to be able to punish Black for this unsolid play by attacking in the center with D4 and all that, but it's surprisingly, I wouldn't say it's completely ineffective, but surprisingly difficult. One of the things is that the White Knight is already on D2. So let's just suppose we play this move E4.
Alex, sorry to distract you, but we have the first result and we have to work tomorrow. My apologies. Those guys, they made 2 draws on board 1. So Movsisyan, no surprise here. Yeah, he went for this 4 knights, D4. Well, perhaps not with the objective to make a draw at once, but just to see how it goes. And, well, it's gone rather poorly. So 2 draws for Din Biren and Movsisyan, and there will be confirmed at least 1 tiebreak tomorrow. Spoiler alert, guys, it will be many more.
Well, of course, thank you for doing this. Well, I call it job security. We're coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. So, coming back to this situation, do you think that Black can play G4 and just win that pawn on D4, Evgeny? What do you think?
Take on G3.
Well,
yes.
maybe take and then G4 and then the pawn is
G4.
here. Yeah, for Black G4 to take the pawn.
So, well, first, of course, we have to take the bishop, right? Otherwise, there will be some bishop H4s.
Yeah,
so
I suppose you
trade
don't
on G3.
want that. Yes, indeed.
White recaptures with the H pawn, then we
I
go
suppose
G4, knight goes somewhere,
and
E takes D4, right.
That's extra pawn. And Black has not made this commitment with the king to J8. So there is no reason for White to expect a long-term compensation. I was just trying to illustrate how difficult it is to punish Black for that G5 play. So this line is very questionable. So the young American player has to figure out his strategy.
Now, probably D4 is just not the thing you want in this particular position.
No, but I had to mention it because it's a classical approach. Yeah. So what is the
thing he wants? Yeah.
Before B5?
Before B5 might be an idea.
Yeah, indeed.
And of course, when Black plays both E5 and G5, you do have to think about getting to F5 square with White. Just that it's easier said than done. No?
Of course. Well, you need good tailwind, to land with your knight on F5. It may happen later in the game. Who knows how it develops? Yeah,
but so far it doesn't look very promising for Sam Sevian. Okay,
indeed.
Next board.
Next must win is this one.
Nakamura against Nisipiano. Well, at least this one is a huge fight.
Yeah. Now, Nisipiano is expected goes his own ways. So he puts the knight on C6, although not immediately. Now, H4 is a standard move in this position to get access to G5 square. And F6 is rather unusual for the structure.
Yeah, that's a strange mix of the line we were discussing, where Black first plays knight to D7 to F6 and then comes up with C5, D5. It might be clever, though, to have the pawn on F6, because usually White's attacks, they are connected with jumping something to, well, playing something to G5 and basically never leave. It's like White plays bishop G5 with knight on F6 once again. Black goes H6, White says, okay, H4, take my bishop.
Yeah, we can illustrate this.
Yeah, even here.
It's not entirely without...
H6?
Without merit to consider this position. Within the realm of possibility. We've seen those things. Good or bad, we don't know, but just illustration. Okay, they showing some Sevian, but now we move into Nakamura's game. And let us go back to the actual position on the board.
The actual position, after F6, Naka has played H5.
All right.
Knight develops to C6.
Which is not what you see very often. I'll say this: I'm not sure Black can achieve this in more standard move orders. Maybe he wouldn't mind having this on the board.
So it could be like this is actually an improved version for Black.
It's an attempt to improve, because obviously we need to see what happens in this game and other games. But Nakamura's reaction was a3, which is Hikaru is, with all his multitude of his talent and many things he can do well at the board, well, he first and foremost a practical player. He's not the kind of guy, who like Grishuk, who would see something interesting and he would sit there and try to figure it out, possibly at the cost of the practical success in this particular game. Never Hikaru. He played a3 because he gets to press the clock.
Yeah, the pawn was hanging, so let's move it away so it's no longer hanging.
Well, Hikaru believes that they're always going to be moved for creativity later in the game, and that's what he proved. Track record. Can't argue with success. But he got this far, and but the Black Knight is on c6, not on d7, which is obviously less active. One thing here, if somehow by either by some miracle, oops, we're about to see a move.
Yeah, something was played. Knight to h4, so this is the real point of having the pawn on h5. So he goes to h4, tries to either play bishop d3, get a grip on f5 square.
Or just play knight g6 in the favorable situation and checkmate on the h-file.
Knight g6 is an idea. I don't know.
Queen is little off, right? The white queen. It's better off coming to h5 immediately. Now,
let's play some move for Black. I'm not sure what Black is supposed to do here, but just a little something. Because I think I have one more idea for White, even though it shouldn't be like correct thing. I don't think it works. But for instance, Queen d7. Does that make sense? Well, it
Queen
does.
d7 always makes sense.
Queen d7, and then we go g4.
Okay.
Well, nice positional move, unless you take the pawn, right?
Yeah.
So bishop takes, f2, f3. And then I'm clearing this second rank. So if bishop goes back to e6, and that's your first choice because you want to keep d5 protected, then already some various knight g6 or bishop d3, queen g2. This I kind of like for White.
Because in this position, White has possibly has a minor threat of rook h8 check.
And queen h2.
Yeah,
and
because
queen
then
h7,
I take on h3 with the bishop, and it looks bad. So in this situation, Black might be able to play bishop d6, but then we have to figure it out. But it certainly looks very alarming, the situation for Black. Yeah, this is interesting. Now, what else can Black? What other Black options are?
It's like f5. It's rather double-edged. I mean, you take the control of, manually taking control of f5 square. I'll be there. Just f5. You won't have access. But at the same time, it does weaken something. And g3 maybe to put the bishop on g2 or knight to g2, f4. It's like a very slow approach, but interesting.
The d5 square, of course. So, I'm not sure about f5 in this situation. Now, for other options, Black would love to play b5, b4, but no, I don't think he can do this.
It's like to play b5 and second pawn.
Yes, second pawn, of course.
Could be.
But I'm just not sure it would work. So you play queen b6, and attack that bishop and try to get on the b file as soon as you can.
Yeah, well, might work, in fact.
I'm worried about the overload on the e file. I mean, the queen e2.
So the queen e2, move the bishop. Yeah, but that's...
Bishop where? What do I do with the bishop on e6? I don't want to allow knight f5.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't think Black can do this because there's too much tension in the center. It's very nice to sacrifice pawns and attack on opposite sides of the board, because this is the name of the game in such cases, but you need certain stability in the center, and I don't think it's quite there for Black to try.
Anyhow, there is at least, a hope for Hikaru. That much we can say, unlike, sometimes you've lost game one in such a match, you try, and you see it's like you are against the wall. It's the Petrov, where the guy knows 20 moves and he just like rock solid makes a draw. Here we have an unbalanced position with kings castled opposite sides. So that's the scenario one can dream about when in a must-win situation.
Right. No, besides the players involved, you mentioned already that Nisipian is not the most rock-solid guy around, That's not exactly Alexei Dreyev, of a player of his generation and all that. And for Hikaru, well, as long as oxygen flows, there is hope.
Yep.
All right, so next game.
Well, people in the chat ask for some, I don't know, who do you mean by saying Sasha's game? Sasha, perhaps Grishuk?
Sasha, perhaps it's Grishuk, No,
well, interestingly, Alexander is a very, very popular name in Russia. A lot of Russians playing, but now I'm double-checking. There is Predke, Alexander Predke playing against Jan Nepomniachtchi, but
he's not a household name yet. Well, I guess, maybe your goal as a chess player is to be referred as Sasha. Every young player now thinks one day I'll be so well known in the world.
That when they say Sasha, that means that's me. Yeah.
Okay, so
so far it's Grishuk. Yeah.
So far it's Grishuk, indeed. So here's the situation. All right, so that's the Rogozin thing, the mix of the Nimza and the Queen's Gambit declined, and there it goes into this popular modern lines.
And Bishop F5, yeah.
Grishuk played it with white. He likes the early move Queen B3. He defeated Pavel Elyanov in an important game once by playing Queen B3. And now he knows everything about this position, good enough to play it with black. And he's facing Bishop E2.
Once again?
Bishop E2.
Yeah.
He's facing this move, Bishop E2. Sorry, I hit the wrong button and went away from the position. So not Queen B3, but Bishop E2, now with delay. It's slightly different. No, anyway, for black, it's almost imperative to take on C3 anyway. So it happens and now...
C3 and then B7, B5. And that's
B5.
Not a very usual move.
No, it's an attempt to put a clamp, and totally clamp up on the light squares.
Yeah, but what happens if this pawn is actually taken?
With
whatever you like. Queen takes. I mean
it's the B file.
I don't like to be pinned, so I'm taking with the queen. Rook B8, and the queen moves to
A4,
A5. Maybe just not to be attacked.
No.
And then, that's a little problem. Yeah. Black puts the rook on B2, so white cannot castle. The bishop, the thingy on E2 is constantly hanging.
And there is no way to oppose this rook from B1 ever.
Mm-hmm.
And long-term development issues.
Yeah, right. So apparently that was analyzed at home, this pawn sacrifice, or it's a standard reaction, So anyhow, the pawn was not taken.
The pawn was not taken. Well, the situation in this match is such that after the first draw, one careless move can mean the end of the tournament for both players.
Mm-hmm.
So in this situation, it's reasonable that Benjamin Bok decided to take it easy and captured on F6, and then played castles. You may ask, and I'm actually asking myself, why would white take on F6 when the knight was pinned? Was he worried about G5 or not?
The G5, bishop G3, C6, something like that, and trying to claim that the bishop on G3, even though it looks very powerful, has no opponent, that it is somehow out of play.
Maybe even this move.
You want to play knight E4. That could be.
Perhaps he means business with that move G4 sometimes and knight D2 fork. But here I'm not sure, because this capture is, I don't know what it leads to. I take on C3 and then maybe it's good for white. F5 is hanging. Anyway, it's hard to guess, but bishop takes F6 is the most cautious approach, and this is what we have. A4, A6, black obviously wants to keep the pawn chain.
And then now queen to B4.
End game, possibly.
You don't want to take on B4, don't you? You don't really want to take on B4.
You don't want to back.
And wait, and it's if you don't want to take on b4, that means probably there will be no endgame, because this way you are not able to recapture with the a pawn.
You lose a pawn. It's not
Queen
it's
takes,
not good.
rook takes, and then a takes b5.
Yeah, the rook loses support on a8, and it's just not good.
So the other rook could have gone to defend the queen, like rook a7 or rook e8, but then
But
again,
we're giving up the a file.
Black has to abandon the a file. Yeah, so it's not precisely comfortable for Black to go for an endgame. Maybe he has to move the queen, and then first he needs to find the square. Queen e6.
Maybe queen e6.
Queen e6.
Now, well, in such positions, sometimes white first prepares by doubling up on the a file with the rooks, making the capture on b5 a threat. So that could happen. Anyway, this game is developing, but we must go elsewhere.
Yeah, so Alex, please look for the game, and while you're doing so, I mean, okay, say Nihal Sarin with Safari once again, we will check it.
All right.
While you are doing this, we have to thank again the partners who made the tournament and this broadcast included possible. So a general partner of the whole event is Gazprom Hunters, so, well, a local Gazprom Neft Hunters, pardon. So the official airline with the airline most players arrived here in Hunty-Benzies quiz is UTair. General media partner is news agency TASS, and the another media partner is Match TV, which is Russian sports channel.
Thank you to our sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to sponsors. Thank you for everyone who made this event possible. And we continue with this Evans Gambit game.
Yeah.
Safar Lee against Nihal Sarin. So, well, the material's equal.
So, bishop b6, as you recommended, and instead of bishop b5, which I believe is a move, white can also play this. The idea is that parting with the bishop is okay, because white has this direct line of attacking the black bishop on b6. One thing is that when the white a pawn goes forward, such as this was okay, but let's just suppose that black took.
Knight takes, yeah.
If it happened, then white's next move is very likely is going to be a2 to a4, threatening to trap the bishop, and then your pawn move to open up a square would lessen the protection to the bishop, and white will be able to capture on b6 and regain
meanwhile,
the pawn.
just look at it, we have another result. Which board is that? Yeah, I don't know.
Who's signing what?
That's the arbiter signing
that's the arbiter
signing the protocol. What was this? What was the game? What was the board?
All right, I have to go up and scroll.
It's Christiansen against Alexeyenko. So 2 draws for those guys, and they'll play at tiebreak tomorrow
I think Christiansen, after surviving a very difficult game yesterday, did they play the same opening as Mavsisyan and Ding Liren?
I don't know.
Well, I'm just going to put this on the board, and I swear it looks familiar.
Yes, it's the same.
All right. Well,
it's the same.
Good job, guys. You know, you're on the same ticket to tomorrow. More job security. All right. Fair enough. Going back to Nihal Sarin's game.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what has happened? Knight a5.
That's why he didn't take on c4, because the knight on a5, it looks what can this knight do but capture on c4? But all the same, you don't want to open up the path for the white 8 pawn. So therefore, different approach with the move knight e7 and now d5, and
black just castles, yeah.
No, well, it's not the first time I see black giving back the gambited pawn. Mentioned the Laskar's methods of playing against Evans gambit, and I've seen it in some other games. No, right, white gets it, and the pawn structure is. Normally, we would think of something like capture on d6. Can you tell me with 100% certainty how black is going to recapture?
C takes, you mean?
Well, yeah, 100%. I'm not sure. I have to stop and think. Perhaps both are possible.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing such structures that black has recaptured with the c pawn, but I'm not sure if it was because it's good or because it was necessary in that particular game.
That is true.
Because sometimes you don't want to take with the queen because bishop a3 can be played, but not here.
Or maybe e5 here in this situation. Well, so it requires certain thinking, but in itself the pawn structure is not so bad for black, because if you look what's happening on white's queen side, pardon me, then you see that the pawn on c3 is rather lonely. So there will be some kind of long-term counterplay on the c file.
Interestingly, yeah, you might not take on c4 at all with black, right? I mean, after ed6, cd6, for instance, you might not be taking this bishop at all, but just play queen c7, wait for it to leave to d3, go bishop e6, let's say, try to get to c4 square.
On second thought here, I actually prefer capturing with the pawn, because this makes me a little bit concerned, because the move e5 will be followed...
White is getting some tempo, yeah?
Yeah, e5, and I'm not comfortable with the queen on the 6th
maybe
rank.
queen g6.
But
because I seem to have bishop f5 as the answer to bishop d3.
Yeah, that is true.
Maybe white does something else, though. Because this feels pretty comfortable.
What's this business?
That's tricky. This is something that I've blundered. Bishop d3, you take the... Let's show this one on it.
And that's the ugly check on e7.
Bishop b1, and knight takes e7 with a check intermediate, and then takes the bishop, and white is a piece up.
Oh well, so anyway, but e takes d6 hasn't happened yet, so we shouldn't be going too far. And whatever, you know, so, okay.
So scroll a bit up from this game, and we will see Wei and Anton Guijarro again on board 21, this
absolutely
interesting attempt to refute English opening by going h5 and mif3.
Oh, look at me. I have to pat myself on the back. That was the only line that I showed when h5 was played. No, well, I don't know. Thankfully, I didn't make any evaluation of this position, so I cannot possibly go wrong. When you say nothing, you know, then you're never proven wrong. All right, let's say something then, because we have it on the board.
So d3, knight to f6, that was the... This is how this continued.
Knight f3 and bishop there, and now d4.
d4. Well, d4 is a bit counterintuitive, to be honest, because I would think that white happy with the position as is, because he has a lot of control on light squares. That what would be how it would seem.
But eventually he has to castle somewhere.
Yeah, but
black knows
what's
where
wrong
to
with castle long? Bishop e3, say something like that. Bishop e3, queen d2. Because black castles long himself, right?
Yeah,
very
both
likely,
castle long.
Very likely.
Well, that was a slow approach. I'm sure it was possible, but
white might as well just keep the king in the center, right? Bishop b3, say queen d7, queen d2 so far.
Yeah.
To wait for black to determine where the king's going to be first.
He probably goes there anyways.
Yeah, then I put the knight on g5 first, control all the light squares, and then prepare for b4. Actually, kind of
he will play the knight, of course, to d4,
d4
after dealing with the threat of knight f7. He's going to play knight d4 eventually. I don't know. Well, honestly, I kind of agree with you. The d4 move would probably cross my mind, but I am not sure I would have played it.
So, but black didn't reply just yet, yeah?
No, well, because I guess...
No, he did. He went queen d7.
Queen d7, yeah. Okay, what could he do? Because of the absence of the pawn on f5, if he only dared to play e4, for sure he would have lost that pawn.
Knight g4 and
knight g5,
knight g5.
So he couldn't do this. So the other option was to take there, but in this situation, the white bishop is open all the way to c6, and the f5 bishop is under attack. It's not really that attractive. So possibly queen d7 was played by default, because simply there's no better move. And now the big question is,
What's the end game? Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're up 1 point in a 2-game match. Don't you want to
And you can trade the queens. That's precisely what you want to do.
Maybe that's what you want. All right.
So d5, say, you want to sacrifice it?
I think you will play this. I mean, play the end game. Should go home if you play the end game. I mean, there is some merit in this to castle long, because white is not going to be able to castle long and
Anymore,
yeah, because it opens up too much. I mean, it's not like I'm cheering for black or anything, but I mean, what to do?
Yeah, perhaps that's the move. Yeah.
Well, there is always something liberating about a desperate situation when you're back against the wall and the worst thing that could happen is that you lose the match anyway. I mean, it's a mixed feeling, but some people, they draw inspiration from this. Probably not everybody, but some people do, and they become extremely dangerous.
Playing better under this kind of circumstances. When you really
the cornered animal effect. No. Well, d5, I believe, has been played.
d5 has been played, so well, now we'll see what...
Since there is no immediate reply from black, that I think that some knight move, which I think knight e4 is the most logical, is probably within the field of vision.
Yeah, you're right. Not that black cares too much if he's a pawn down or something. Yeah, he has to go for it.
All right, what do we do?
We go up. We see some games that we possibly did not check. So let me.
No, there are some games where the first game ended in a draw, and now they're playing. For example, Vityugov going against Hushenbeth and some such.
Yeah, but we didn't check, for instance, like the big names, like Jan Nepomniachtchi, for instance.
Or Yesipenko Svidvar. Well,
yeah.
So we have one very big name and the one name that is growing as we speak. Actually, let's make a stop, because if there is any classic Grunfeld, then it's one of those positions.
How does that happen?
It comes out of the not Kasparov, I'm sorry, Karpov-Kramnik line. The move knight d7. Actually, I encountered this move for the first time when my opponent was Viktor Mikhalevsky, a very well-known Israeli grandmaster and a great practitioner of the Grunfeld. At that time, I was absolutely unprepared to play against it, but now it's one of the well-researched moves. Bishop d3 and then e5. And then you get the structure. And black doesn't want the endgame in this situation.
Yeah.
Because they want to lessen the impact of their counterplay with f5. Because clearly white has this pawn minority attack business, a4, a5. But that's away from the kings. So with the queens on, the impact of f5 could be tremendous.
Yeah, as far as I remember, that's one of those weird positions where computer really favors white. And it's not clear if it is right. Because white obviously has the space advantage, that the d5 pawn that crossed the demarcation line. But in terms of clear plan of what white wants, it's not so easy. And when you push the a pawn, you get it to a5, black plays b6, or black starts with b6, you get the pawn to a5, you trade there. Yes, b6 is a backward pawn, but it's not easy to really put pressure on it, enough pressure.
Yeah,
right?
Even sometimes a4 can be answered with a5 to leave white with long-term headache about that a4 pawn.
So that at some point
sometimes happens. And it's hard to figure out what is going to happen. This position, all right, you mentioned computers. Well, computers also, they have some carbon creatures in their camp. For example, my good friend and colleague in the US Olympic team, Yasser Seirawan. For him, if you can build up a chain from G2 to D5, there is nothing else to look at. You go for it. No, right, of course, he knows much more about it, but it's just the way he likes to present it in his teachings. But it's one thing to like this position, another thing to actually make something out of it in a practical game. I have not always been able to do this. And by the way, speaking of not getting a whole lot of comfort, Peter Svidler very quickly played f5.
After bishop
no, it was
E2,
after queen e2.
f5.
And now bishop pull back.
Bishop d2.
The purpose of queen e2 is now revealed. The white bishop goes to c3 for pressure against e5.
Okay, knowing Peter, he seems to be the guy who won't play f4 and continue in the King's Indian style.
No.
He seems to be the guy who takes on e4 in this position, goes for dynamical approach, even though he is leaves white with the better structure.
Of course. Besides here f4, no, it's not exactly a King's Indian. You have something nice on d6. Well, something that's better than a pawn. But the thing that's on d6 now does not protect the pawn on e5.
Yeah.
And as far as your e5 pawn goes, your entire pawn structure.
But honestly, that I believe it is a viable option to go f4 and bishop c3, queen e7, prepare g5. Because interestingly, both white's bishops are not that great unless you are able to target the e5 pawn.
So you need enough protection. I know you do. Rook e8 on knight f7. You do, obviously, but the life of the e5 pawn is the game. So no.
Yeah, well, knight f7.
Oh, no,
I could have gone knight f7 at first place. By the way,
of course,
instead of queen e7.
It's not. Well, that's why f4 is a viable option. But I tend to agree with you. It's not exactly Peter Svidler chess. Well, to play like this would be interesting to see.
Yeah, and the other option is to take on e4, but in this case you start with fe4, not knight e4. I think this might be an important point. Because if you take with the knight, because sometimes for some people it's confusing, like, well, white takes anyway. No, white goes knight g5 and
then the knight on e4 is great. That's blockade and perfect position. However, coming from this move order, it's impossible. And black, for example, can play bishop f5. And then he can put the pawn on e4, opening up the other bishop.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But once again, how good it is...
Maybe not so great, because if white is able to trade...
It's queen e3, because it will give bishop d4 with a tempo later on.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on at all. I actually was moving the queen back and let go of the...
and it just dropped on e3.
Yeah, it happened to be somewhere. Okay, so that's totally fine. But the point is that now... both bishops cannot be active because there is always the e-pawn on the path of one of them. And in this case, if white gets to play bishop c3 and trade the active bishop, then the other one, f5, is going to be self-restricted. So lots of things to think about it. And what? Must-win situation for Vladimir Fedoseev.
Against Pentala Harikrishna.
Yeah, and he goes into this English anti-Queen's Gambit line. I don't know, for lack of a better word.
Oh, well, it's called the McKenna's system, as far as I know. This e4 thing. I don't know what for, but, apparently McKenna's was playing and contributed to a theory of this line, but...
Well, McKenna's was a very interesting player, and his career spanned... both pre-World War II and post-World War II. And I think he played many world champions in his career. Very many. He certainly played Capablanca. I'm not sure he ever played Lasker, but he played Capablanca and he played... I'm not sure he played Spassky, but all in between he played. So McKenna's played a lot of different things, so entirely possible. All right, so that's an interesting line.
That's an interesting line. That's a known position.
Yeah, but b6 recently came about. Before that, e5 was considered automatic.
C5 still exists.
Yes, c5 existed. But b6 recently came about. The point of this is to take on f3 because you have a bit of a problem here. If you play a move like knight d7, then white can play
bishop g5,
which is not really so surprising. But what happens after that?
Bishop takes f3 and queen d2.
Is this. Maybe not so good.
Yeah.
So the capture must be done immediately. White wants the queens on the board. Maybe always. Or maybe because of the match situation. Well, I don't know.
Takes with the pawn?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, yeah.
He doesn't care, you know, like, in this case, Fedoseev certainly doesn't care. The danger to his king. We saw him playing king d7 in the game that he won.
Yeah, honestly, I would expect the evaluation of this to be such as if you take with the queen, you're safe and probably slightly better with white, despite the ruined structure. Well, two bishops are powerful things. But yeah, if you are in a must-win situation, possibly you look for something more than that.
No, well, and then you look for something like this. It's rather crazy to take this pawn because development, the king in the center, and you already played h4. You play h4 on one side of the board, you move your queen to the other side of the board. Is your position really so good? Now, he's going to complement all this a few moves down the road. When Hare Krishna obviously is trying to open up the game, and
rook to d1, rook e8, queen back to a4.
And now bishop f4 was played, and now to complement his consistent strategic plan, white plays king e2. I guess it's just perfect. This whole thing is perfect.
The whole thing is perfect. So you mean with king in the center, under the fire of all the black pieces?
And basically playing on both flanks with no reason at all. The only reason, actually two reasons for this. Reason number one, the desperate match situation. Reason number two, that Vladimir Fedoseev is a very original player. If anybody can make it work, that's him.
Well, you know, it looked peculiar indeed, but now that I'm trying to find the convincing move for black, it happens to be not easy.
Well, it's certainly not. I mean, the bishop stands on e4. The bishop stands in the way. Now, if black could play f7, f5, things would turn around in a hurry. But it takes preparation. I mean, I would say that things are okay for Fedoseev now because it's better to have this rather than some kind of symmetrical Slav exchange variation. But it would be difficult for him to outplay Pentava Hare Krishna in a slow-moving positional endgame kind of thing. This is more of his territory. Yeah, he has a shot.
Could it be that this bishop f4 wasn't much to the point, his last move? Because after bishop f4, king e2, you don't really want to take on e3, right? And somehow it
ties...
Yeah, of course, you improve white structure a great deal this way. But if you don't want to take, then it kind of ties you down having bishop on f4, which needs protection, because again, maybe I don't see all the ideas, but instead of bishop f4, if you just play queen e7 and want to put the knight on f6, as you said, to get rid of this silly bishop standing on e4.
Well, yeah, that would be very nice, but then again, you know, like there are two bishops covering the king, so it's entirely possible that then white will play bishop c6 and would force the active rook to go back. I mean, in this situation. So I don't know, there are many things to look at, and the position honestly is just too complex for us to even attempt to make heads or tails out of this. I would say we'll return to this little later, I think. I want to go back to this...
yeah. If you need a request for the game, say Nepo. People say Nepo, it's a very interesting game, but somehow we never made it up here. It's board 5.
Well, it's just because it went kind of down our list of choices because these guys drew. We shouldn't be really doing this.
Look at the position and you will agree that it is quite entertaining. 2 pawns sacrificed by Nepomniachtchi.
No, right. So this is an Queen A4 check is an attempt to. It's a variant really of the Russian system of Knight F3 and Queen B3. Now the black bishop is forced to D7. It may still transpose, but there is one thing here aside of the move E4, which is the main move. Is Bishop F4 is known. Now black goes Knight A6 because that's what Garry Kasparov always, not always, but often did against the Russian system. Knight A6 and C5. No, it's C5.
No, that's okay.
Now this tempo, and then, of course, black can take on D4, but then white probably holds the pawn on A5, and the black knights are not that impressive. So far more complex is this.
Knight to B4.
Yeah, so it kind of hangs over there. It's not. I'm not hovering over the board with the piece. It's just a little delay. So he had to, right, because of the fork. And now
B5 pawn sacrifice. Knight. No, Queen B3.
I suppose that maybe given up the A2 pawn, there is this line, right? You take, he takes, you take and check. And you think you're safe, but maybe you're not safe.
Yeah, there is not. This one is Knight C3.
Yeah, they're not safe.
Goes King C2.
King C2 was safer, but no, right, you still stay on open file. I don't know. So he decided not to take and played Queen B3. And, well, black, I don't know if black had any options as far as keeping the material equal, because he doesn't want to take on D4. And the knight would be hanging.
Yeah. So A5.
Yeah,
Nepo has sacrificed the pawn. Yeah, A5. D takes. Queen to C8. Sacrificed another pawn. Bishop B5. Bishop B5. Knight takes. And finally goes Rook B8.
No, right. Well, I'm guessing that the white knight is not going back to C3 because of Knight D3 check.
Yeah, I'm guessing the knight is not going back at all. You just play A4, which is like not the move I love to play, because that means that I have no means of kicking away the, this
B4
intruder on B4. This knight, will stay there, well, if not forever, for a long time.
Yeah. Indeed.
But in a way, this A4 stabilizes my queen side. So, well.
All right. So black needs to break through to the white king. Now the pawn on C5 is protected by the bishop, and how can it be attacked? The bishop from G7 is not getting through the E5 pawn. So, I mean, my knight on H5 doesn't have any squares to go to. So let me try this move. Queen F5. I'm getting my queen out, opening up possibly for Rook C8, whatever it's worth, hoping to mate on C2 or give Knight A2 check, so the white queen is busy. And I don't know if I really want to take on E5. Maybe I want to play Knight F4. To give check.
Perhaps you will have to take on E5. Now, if we, continue in this position, Rook D4, I think, is a decent try for white. So we
must stop Knight F4.
We stopped Knight F4, and I have another idea of sacrificing the exchange myself, because I'll have three passed pawns on the queen side, some stability with, with knight on B5, pawn on A4. So it is very double-edged, the thing.
All right, so suppose, takes one pawn back, which is not a fact that it's going to happen.
And then white say, take. I mean, I'm not sure if I have to take right now, but let's, for clarity's sake, I'm just taking on B4.
All right, indeed. Let's look at this position.
And queen takes.
Fun and games. All right. Now, despite, black doesn't really have a material advantage, because obviously bishop and two pawns are good enough for a rook, almost in any case. And the fact that you have three connected passed pawns makes black think that he's going to be lost in the endgame anyhow. So you need some kind of activity. The queens stay on the board. Need to bring the knight to D5. No.
But yeah, in this case there is bishop F4, where I'm winning back the exchange, it seems.
It is, well, there may be some, possibly I was hallucinating.
Like Queen e4, or no, Queen e4, I'm just trading.
No, it was, it's not good, I can't quite do this, so. I don't know, well, I'm beginning to think that this fight against the knight, protected by a pawn, is not going to be. Probably rook c8 has to be.
You know what? I think Jan played a better move that we were looking at, because I also liked Queen f5, but he went Queen g4. Same point, trying to bring the knight to f4, but as well he's attacking the g2 pawn.
Yes, the knight, Queen g4. Actually, I was also thinking about it. I just wasn't sure. Now. The queen isn't trapped, so there is no h3.
And I got to say,
the queen will escape.
I don't really know what the objective evaluation of this thing is, but knowing that it's Jan Nepomniachtchi playing with black, I would be super scared with white, because he's known to find those like little tricks all the way. It's like one of those other strong Russian players. Who was that? I don't. It could have been Sergei Rublevsky, whatever. So, coined the phrase that you can beat Jan Nepomniachtchi at chess, but you never have a chance to enjoy it. So even in an absolutely winning position, he will still come up with some tricks that. Yeah, you always
enjoy it in the sense that you play in the role of modern-day Botvinnik, sort of like creating a strategic masterpiece,
with the
and brushing off all the tactical attempts, by a lesser. It's almost like the intellectual superiority. It's a pretty disgusting thing always, and I'm glad that there are people like Nepomniachtchi, because what they do, they cut you down in size. Right? So you can sit there and think of yourself, I know everything about chess. Wait till you play Jan Nepomniachtchi. You'll be like a lost puppy over there in that sea of tactics, and when he plays his move with uncanny speed.
Okay, trying to find at least something interesting in the chat. Nothing just yet. Well, same requests to look at various games.
There is one game that is going to go distance today, among
which
many.
One?
This one is between Wesley So and Anton Demchenko.
Boring chess, I'm sorry. It's boring chess.
This line and similar lines, whenever black allows this capture on f6, the game slows down to a crawl. It's very similar to the line with the move bishop f5 when white goes queen f3.
Yeah.
And it slows down to a crawl, and it's a torturous, long maneuvering. And we will certainly return to this game, but staying with it throughout, you know what I'm scared of, Evgeny? Well, if we ever survive, you're probably going to be there for sure. If I ever survive in this job to the final match, if this is the only game, if this is the game from the final, and I have to look at this, I'll make my best effort, but it's just hard to get excited about
anyway, this is not very entertaining, but just like few boards down, you have Kasimdzhanov Mamedyarov. Kasimdzhanov needs to win. He sacrificed the piece. I think we should look at this one rather than this endgame.
No, well, it has that only one move.
Only one move, but what move? D-e4 and rook takes e4.
Clearing out for the queen to come to h5. Yeah, and was that kingdom for the horse? And the horse now is the knight on f6. Give me your horse, and I give you my tower. In a way, right?
So, first of all, let's see if black takes the rook. I'm not convinced. Yeah, what's the problem? I'm taking the rook. So instead of being a piece up, now I'm rook up. So
I like that people, call my bluff. It kind of motivates me to continue further on. So recapture with the knight. Queen h5, knight f6. It's not my bluff, by the way, and I don't think it's a bluff at all. If it was so easy for Shakhriyar, then he would have solved it.
So say bishop e7 to stop knight f6, and then queen goes somewhere.
Well, yeah, queen goes
h5
in that general direction.
h5 or f3, because you had queen f3.
I think it's h5. I wanted to... No, although, queen
Queen
f3
f3
also.
threatens mate in 2. I mean, that was my point. It's
Yeah,
like queen
maybe
f3
even better. Yeah.
threatens mate in 2, and if you go with your king to h5, then of course queen
Yeah.
h5. Yeah, and black is not enjoying it. That's
And also
that's
knight
uncertain.
f6 check. So, yeah, certainly. So the rook goes over there, and then... Okay, if the rook is ignored... I don't know, how do I ignore this rook? Do I just play back to f8 anyway? Then white plays the queen move to support the bishop, and he's still ready to sacrifice, right?
Or
Rook?
can he... Oh, wait. No, that was lousy. I was thinking of bishop g5, kind of trying to force black to take the... No, queen move, yeah. Queen d2
D2,
or
yeah.
queen d2.
Let's not solve black,
Something,
the
yeah.
rook can be useful. All right, so... And then there's check coming on g5. It is similar. We looked at this. Remember, bishop f8 and queen move without the capture on e4.
Yeah,
Obviously, we didn't expect this kind of fireworks, but...
Or other version, Alex, if he doesn't want to take my rook, why don't I just go rook h4 and yeah, probably queen d2 is the better move.
Yeah, because we want to lead with the queen for the mating threats. Not the rook is the supporting actor from h4 to the queen on h6.
Yeah, but now what bothers me a little, if black takes everything like e4, h6 in some order, and goes f5, is there mate? I mean, it's rook up for black. I mean, I understand the perpetual's always there.
Yeah, there is a check.
But yeah, check, king f8.
There is a check again.
On f6, I go back.
And there is a... We need soldiers, right?
Well, that's like even more material.
Yeah, well, yeah.
For some reason, I think it won't be enough, because rook is not getting there just yet. I can play f4 when rook gets to e3. Yeah, of course, I'm not taking the knight.
Well,
because
yeah,
this is,
not taking
if
the
I
knight,
take the
huh?
knight, I believe it's rook. Even though, wait, I'm taking the knight. I lied to you, Alex.
You are?
I'm taking the knight, rook e3, bishop f7. That's like... At some point, you will run out of pieces.
I don't...
I hope.
Well, yeah, you actually have a good point, I'm a little short, with this. But I had in mind a different concept of bringing my rook over.
To h4.
Well, h4, h8, long journey, but with...
Well, if this works, this
promising.
works, yeah.
Yeah, that was my plan, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could work, yeah.
Who knows? I mean, we just throw pieces around, and most likely, at least in my case, I can only speak for myself. If I would say if I hit the 10% mark in correctness, not being perfect moves, just correct moves, more or less accepted by computers, then I'm happy. So it's just difficult to do. But, no, well, it's ideas. Well, it's up to the players to find best interpretation of their ideas. That's why they sit in there, and that's why they get paid the big bucks. Well, we're just trying to kind of guess which way their minds are working. Levon Aronian.
Yeah, Aronian against Masudlu, same thing. Masudlu has to win.
And he's
but with black, yeah. And he's, well, at least he's trying to do it.
White is so solid. Oh, I don't know. All right. I was wondering about the move h3.
And that's once again
Played by Predke.
Back to
Predke, because h3. No, you almost trapped. I know you're not trapped because you can return along the diagonal.
Are you sure knight h4 is the move?
I'm illustrating. I'm absolutely not sure. I'm just illustrating the point that oftentimes it's a trap. Not in this case, because the queen can return.
Because there is a fair chance that the queen is getting trapped if you manage to protect the knight somehow.
No, well, yeah, that is true. And that's where we need to research in this direction. Now, in order to protect the knight, we either move the bishop away, which might expose the f2 pawn.
Maybe b to d4? Knight b to d4?
Interesting, because the black knight, now you perk up because you want to move the knight away. But almost every square is
because I
taken by the
still
queen.
do have some extra pawns, right? One pawn. So some doesn't really apply. No, the point was that maybe if you say go knight c6, maybe I just take on b8 and win the queen back, but I'm probably not better in the end. The queen takes b8.
Yeah, and then
rook takes b8 and say rook to g1, you know, or rook h2. I'm not sure which one. But then black is doing fine. Yeah? Takes, rook takes. Rook to g1, rook d to g1.
Right. And then he has knight takes d4 with unclear consequences.
Maybe clear consequences, because black will be up material, right? Rook
yeah,
g2,
but the pawn on c5 is alive.
The pawn on c5 is alive.
I'm a little cautious. Okay, I kind of feel that black is all right because I think e5 is indefensible. Yeah. But no, well, white didn't quite get where they. So knight c6. But having said that, you know, perhaps we should mention that maybe white comes to terms with this, that he's unable yet to win the queen.
Does something
but
else,
maybe you can do this and take with the bishop, keeping everything protected. One bad thing is that we allow the black knight to come to f4. And that creates another something that we must calculate. I'm illustrating this line. We need to take with the bishop, else we give up the pawn on e5. And now this. And we have to put on hold this rook g1 business and deal with the check. So, I don't know. One thing leads to another. But I give Predke credit. He played this move very quickly. I think Alexander Predke is doing one thing right, Evgeny. He's playing fast enough. He doesn't let Jan Nepomniachtchi to get his usual half-an-hour lead on the clock.
Yeah, and by the way, while we were talking about Jan Nepomniachtchi on board 5, we are reminded of the game on the very last board in this round 2, board number 32, Firuzha against Daniil Dubov. That's the one, the what we said, weird
pawn on a5. Well, Firuzha gets points for consistency. He did everything right. He's attacking on the dark squares.
Okay.
So he didn't play d4, didn't want to relieve black of that double pawn, and he did this.
Bishop takes e5.
Somewhat surprising decision, but well, it helped black to gain some time for development. And he wins the pawn on d3 always. But when it came to this, I don't know if Daniil had change of heart, but no.
No, wait.
If he
if you take on d3, yeah, what's the problem? Knight c4? How do we meet knight c4?
Yeah, either that, you know, what was there some kind of rook d1? I mean, if bishop goes to b5, then probably c4 will become unstoppable.
Or rook d1, yeah. So point being, bishop d3 is not clear.
He didn't want to do this, and he played rook f8, which is interesting. It's sort of semi-defensive move. And knight c4 obviously came. And then a pretty good move, consistent. What I like about Firuzha's play in this game, it's very consistent. So he follows his plan. Okay, I put the pawn on a5, I follow through my queen to a4, and never mind the pawn on a5, never mind d3. I am attacking c5. And I believe he stands better here. I don't know how much better, but I would prefer to be white.
Hard to argue with that. Yeah, I was thinking, well, what happens if knight takes on e3? I understand it's not what you want to do, perhaps.
No, well, at least you keep c5.
In ideal world.
Yeah.
But yeah. Takes,
I suppose that
some position, like rook, yeah, I think rook takes because you want to guard d3. And then black plays e5, for instance. Just want to ensure
because I wanted to make one point. When you do this, surprisingly, you don't have rook d5. No, it's a funny point because of the rook on a8, unprotected. The white queen will get there. So understandable, e5. I guess now white piles up. Wants that pawn.
Yeah, and then after f6, you might as well just go f4.
F4. Well, one thing for white, it's like you're fighting with the knight against those double pawns. You know, Evgeny, what comes to my mind? Often double pawns like this are created from the English opening. But then the bishop
Yes.
takes from g2, which leaves holes on white squares. Not the
yeah,
case.
right, yeah.
Not much of a counterattacking chance for black with that bishop.
Here it's a different situation because
Right.
we attack the d3 pawn. So,
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But anyway, okay.
I believe that's the
There's another
happiest
game.
moment, no?
Yeah.
Not yet the
Yeah.
happiest moment of our life? No? Not 2
No,
hours?
not yet. I
No,
thought
not
it was
yet.
about
Okay.
a minute or two
I was
before
about
that.
to leave.
All right, one last talk because
Sure.
these are two youngsters. Obviously, everybody wishes success to young players. And here is the thing, you know, they're facing each other again. They had a long game, queen endgame, it ended in a draw.
Not very entertaining, to be honest. I mean,
Well-
at least the queen's endgame.
And now we have the situation where Jeffrey Chang played his Grunfeld and the popular line with h4, and then I'm sure they both knew what was going on, and it's so far it got this far. White has the extra pawn, but as often happens in a Grunfeld, he forgot to develop this bishop from c1, so nobody knows if he's even better.
Can we look at Kasimjanov's game once again?
Oh.
Because we might see the comeback against the yellow favorite. Kasimjanov, well, as far as I was told, I mean, Kasimjanov, as far as I know, I mean, I was told that Kasimjanov is much better and probably winning against Shah Mamedyarov. Because Shah tries to solve his problems tactically. Bishop takes f2 with a check.
He's now down a pawn, and it's all in the name of taking on b2. I think he's just trying to do something to stop white from bringing the queen there.
Yeah, he
with
doesn't want to
mate.
get mated. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the thing,
so-
yeah. But
Judging by the time he spent on this, you know, well,
you don't have to look further than this. I think it's just like you make any move for white and then you keep the material on the board and white is better, no?
no, well, still, come to think of that. A piece was sacrificed on h6. Then white throws in the exchange on e4, which cannot be taken. Perhaps there is some logic. I give up the bishop, I rattle white a little bit, break up their coordination, and then later in some line I take on e4 and go up the exchange. It's a tall order to fill because of the knight f6 check and all that.
No, wait,
but at least he's
it's like
trying.
Bishop e3? No, I'm just looking at this lineup.
No,
and
that's what I'm talking
should be
about.
hopeless. King g1. Don't care that much about the exchange.
No, right, you know. Okay, in this situation,
Takes, knight takes.
no, well, have it all, you know. Now you'll be attacking with one piece
But
because you tied down to b1. And I mean, I'm not completely convinced. I'm just trying to understand what he's trying to do. I don't believe that white can checkmate now.
I'm convinced that white is winning, like
Oh.
possibly very fast. The knight f6
And,
queen h5. You
well,
know,
okay. Well, is that mate?
well, looks like.
Bishop
you can-
g5.
yeah, king takes f6, bishop g5.
Queen f6, queen g6, king f8. No, right, this may be mate.
Bishop g5, yeah.
I'm slow in
Queen
recognizing
f6
patterns.
and bishop h6. And I don't see how black is supposed. Yeah, you take the rook with a check, but then there is no way to prevent.
No, right. Well,
mate
that's
on G7.
as I said, you know. So I needed a little bit of time to come in terms with this. Now, of course, I concur, and we go for a break.
Yeah. That's a good solution to this. But really, bishop f2, yeah, it's not that I'm that brilliant and I can figure out it immediately. I was told that bishop f2 was a mistake and Kasimdzhanov is close to winning. So from the guy, said that's the message from the guy who checks it all with the computer.
No, of course.
Therefore, we know Kasimdzhanov has a very good chance to come back in this match and to play a tiebreak tomorrow against
And honestly, from the looks of it, it smacks of desperation.
Yeah.
Bishop takes f2.
All right, guys, so we'll have a short break and come back in some 10 minutes. A lot of action in day 2 of round 2.
Certainly will.
That's it?
Yeah. Good.
We'll be back soon. Stay tuned.
Right.
Welcome back, guys. So things are heating up on a second day of round 2. Let us continue with those games. Particularly, I want to see the game of Jan Nepomniachtchi. We left it, I believe, like right before the break when Jan has played Queen G4. We were discussing if Queen is or not getting trapped after H3, Queen G2. H3 was played and he didn't take on G2. So that's a bad sign, I believe. It feels like he has just lost the tempo in a very, very, very sharp position, which it really can cost him dearly. So H3, don't know what would have happened. We were not able to find out why it's not possible to take on G2, but Black went Queen F5.
Well, we did spend some time looking at Queen F5 immediately instead of Queen G4, and it wasn't quite working out, and it's hard to believe that the inclusion of the move H3 could possibly harm White.
Somehow harms White's position to such a degree that,
or to any degree to speak of, so... I don't quite recall, you were advocating the move Rook D4.
Rook D4, but Predke played Queen C4. So Queen C4 and Rook to C8, this is what has happened.
No, Rook C8 is a natural reaction to the move Queen C4. It's not clear yet if Black is going to be able to break through on the C file, but no, at least he's making an effort. Now,
would still somehow try to, create more space for the king at first place. Maybe move the F3 knight, but I don't like that I'm dropping the E5 pawn. Yeah, well, it's not easy, even if it's like much better position for White by computer standards. Or playing it over the board. It's always, you have to watch out for things.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, Alex, how about this move? King D2 to E2 to the king side.
Oh, to play FIDE safe style. Maybe the king on E2 is the safest spot in this situation. No, right, I don't know. No, the pawn on E5 is there to be taken, so let's
see what can
happens.
Imagine Black takes on E5. Then I'm still playing King E2. No, that there is Knight F4. No, I have to take the bishop. Take the bishop. Right. Queen takes.
B2 comes.
Yeah, but honestly, the plan was to go King E2 to return all the material gains, but be safe with the king. So Queen B2 check, Rook B2, and well, at least White finds some harmony. Materials equal, but the feeling is that White is still better. So now I have the bishop versus knight, I have the passed pawn. Well, it's not going too far so far, but who knows?
Well, yeah, it's blockaded from C6 if needed. Well, perhaps, to me, it seems kind of a cop-out if you're White, because you start with your 2 pawns up. Maybe it's a choice to be considered, but no, it takes either certain mindset or deep immersion into position and realization that, no, otherwise you may get in trouble.
Yeah, it's like dangerous. Yeah, I agree. It's not the first thing you consider because, of course, you're starting 2 pawns up. You think, okay, I must be winning. I mean, what's the big deal? But yeah, on the other hand, I was not able to identify a comfortable move.
Also, White's main problem is that he would love to play G4 and win a piece, but the knight is hanging.
Yeah.
So, can you possibly bring back the other knight?
The other knight to D4. Oh, well, you're right.
But it has a problem that it might end up pinned, right? But then there is knight G5. Here I'm beginning to.
I know that's good for White, I believe. Queen takes
Queen
F7. However you go, King H8.
Wow, that's the whole thing, and this is where facing Rook takes C5 check, I'm.
Maybe I was too optimistic, by the way.
But I got so many pawns, but no, I have to be on the lookout because strange things may happen here, although there's probably no immediate mate. By the immediate mate, I meant some variations such as Rook C5 and Knight A2. Then the king runs away. Comes to D2 and Rook takes B2.
And here he is, Jan Nepomniachtchi himself coming back to the board. Did White
facing the move Knight B5 D4, by the way.
Knight To d4.
Yeah, the move that we just started, but no.
So
All
once
right,
again,
after this, no, should we continue? Queen
there
takes
is knight
f7?
g5.
There
Yeah,
is knight g5 as well.
there is knight g5.
Here is the thing here, it's strangely, I know it down 2 pawns, but the knight on g5 possibly, and there could be some possibility, so the g4 becomes a move in this situation.
Takes, knight takes.
And I can go knight f4 because I made connection between my knights. So, and I'm hitting c5 and e5, and under right circumstances I will take on e3.
Yeah, looking at it, there is a feeling like black all of a sudden gets decent chances.
No, well, if he gets 1 pawn, particularly c5, because then floodgates are open, and black can do more things.
Yeah, not
No,
easy.
no.
Not easy. Can we see Nakamura's game? Because we haven't seen it for a while. To remind you, Hikaru Nakamura lost game 1, so he has to win in order to level the score in the match, to keep the match going. And people in the chat discussed that apparently he has made a mistake with his last move.
Queen
Well,
e1.
I'm not sure, but yeah,
But this is where we left off.
after queen, knight h4 or something, yeah. Queen to d7, f3. So he didn't play g4, the move
Yeah,
that
well,
I
g4
thought could have been interesting.
No, right, so he wanted comfort.
F3,
in return
rook
to
d8.
this, he suffers the consequences of moving his knight away from the center because d4 came. So Nisipiano's plan was to forget about b7, b5. It wasn't working, and he focuses on the center. And every move is through the center, toward the center.
Knight e5, queen e1.
So was queen e1 getting
Oh, well, that's what
bad
people
rap?
in the chat say. I don't know if I should believe people in the chat. Well, he had to play something. Queen e1 does a good job of preventing d takes c3, right?
Well,
Well,
yeah.
at least it would seem so.
It also has a decent job dealing with some aggressive moves such as queen a4, because you have a possibility of taking on e5, right?
And I'm sorry, breaking news, Peter Svidler will be black in the tiebreak tomorrow. They've agreed another draw, and I was able, as our spectators, we were able to catch the moment of drawing of lots for the tiebreak.
Oh, I see.
Peter, as the higher rated player, he had a chance to guess. It's
Right. So that was the Grunfeld where they reached this closed formation with the knight on d6, and then we abandoned the game, but there is no sense to going back to it now. So here's what I'm thinking, that in this situation, white is able to capture and cause black certain problems because of the weakness on the e file. The bishops get in the way of each other. So perhaps it's not queen a4, then what is it?
Wait a sec, Alex. In this line, I actually liked queen a4, to be honest.
Me
because
too, I still like it.
Yeah, queen
I'm just
a4,
trying
yeah.
to make it work.
Bishop e5, well, you take the bishop.
And queen takes.
Yeah, queen takes e5. We move. Yeah, I thought to sack a piece, like to go to f7, and when or if queen takes on e7 to take on c. No, I cannot do it. Sorry. So that was some
Not
hallucination.
working in this situation.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so I don't think. No, right. So let's look at this in a more restrained manner and see what else is there. Well, white's threat of capturing on e5 is something that black can live with, because then he gets a tempo on the queen and he can do things on the dark squares. So let's suppose there is no immediate threat. One move I was wondering about, which is truly like one of those mysterious rook moves. What if I play rook e8 and see what happens?
That's not that mysterious. You put your rook on the open file, yeah?
No, yeah, but there is a lock jam over there. But hey, pieces move out in a tactical setting very quickly, and who knows? I may be able to open up. Yeah, this is
People
what we
say, and indeed it was, queen d5 was played, which it is the best move according to computer. Queen d5, nice point, guarding the e5 knight, but that's not the only and not the main idea. Queen a2 is the threat.
Yeah.
So f3, sorry, b3, yeah, queen a2 has to be stopped, had to be stopped, yeah.
All right. And now, in order to prepare this capture on f3, we need to do something about the hanging bishop on e6.
And how about just like breaking through, going c4? Can this thing ever work? No. c4, it's just rook d4, right? I thought c4 might be interesting.
We get to take something with check, which is always
Bishop
worth
a3,
considering.
nice, yes, check. King
Whoa,
b1.
king
well,
b1.
this might be a playable position, yeah, and go with the queen just like somewhere.
a5.
a5, c6. Yeah, there are options.
Okay, let's see
That's a very sharp game.
Oh, it certainly is.
And if anyone, it's black who, well, has his pieces better organized.
Well, I have some concerns about this because I don't really want to take this because bishop c4, knight g6 is fairly obvious. And now I have to, the burden of proof is on me. Am I checkmating? Am I getting anywhere near the white king? In this case, don't know.
No, but wait, but after bishop e5, are you sure?
Other moves.
Are you sure if black has to recapture? Because c takes b3 might be an idea.
I should certainly
give it. c takes b3 might be an idea.
I should certainly give it some consideration, sir.
That's, you know, it's very sharp. Yes, yeah. White is up a piece, but it's like knight on h4, rook on h1, not yet in the game. At least in this variation.
Yeah, they only get in the game if I get to play knight g6 check.
Right, and then you can start doing weird things like bishop c7. Is bishop c7 a move?
Bishop c7 is one of the moves, but no, it all starts with check on c2.
Check on c2, king c2. Yeah, now I was not able to identify more checks. It's like e6.
That is true, you know. I don't want to give up e6 with check for the reasons already mentioned. And it's rather unfortunate that the
people in the chat are clever, or using agents, or both. But they say after rook takes d4, play queen a5 at once, which is a fair point. So don't take it with a check on a3, which is a very tempting move. Kevin Jones finished the game, as I can see from a camera view. It was a draw in the first game, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Kevin Jones, where you are? Don't see him. Is he even playing? Yeah, it was a draw against Yakovenko in game 1.
Okay.
And game 2, I assume, as well. So after rook d4, in our long and...
No, well, certainly. Let's try to take on a3 with the queen. Yeah.
Queen a5? Let's keep the flexibility, right?
Of course, yeah.
And then bishop a5, queen a3, and then cb3. It looks much better than the previous version.
Story. Yeah, well, Nisipiano is kind of doing his thing, you know. It's interesting that, no, it doesn't really fall into a traditional template of playing for a draw when you need half point for qualification, but probably it's more important to play your own chess.
B3 is already on the board.
Yes, of course, b3 is on the board. Yeah. So if you remember the interview that Livio Dieter graciously gave us yesterday, he seems to be the man of his own conviction, and he will do things his own way. And that's what he's doing. So we're looking at the move c4, a thing of beauty.
Not much else that catches my eye. I mean, if you don't take on d4, then I don't know what to do.
b4. And perhaps, you know, black should go d3.
Yeah, you go d3, that's what I thought.
Trying to open that diagonal for the queen infiltration, so white is not very eager to take on d3.
No, I mean, looking at this position, black is a huge favorite.
Of course. All right, then.
And they are also, you know, playing it pretty slow. So now it's move 18 for black to play after b3, and they're both down to
less than half an hour.
All right.
Okay. Another game, a must-win situation from Sam Sevian. And,
For Karyakin, and 15 moves played there, so even less.
even less, particularly for Sevian. So, knight c4 was played. Since white wasn't able to play d4 immediately, he needed a bit of preparation for that. Mainly by clearing out the d file, he accomplished that.
Okay, so knight c4.
No, well, this was played anyway.
G4 anyway.
Yeah.
Not taking the bishop. Knight h4, okay.
And now d4. But knight e7. Now the beautiful bishop on d5, not in danger yet, because white certainly is not afraid of c6 on account of knight d6 check. But his bishop is challenged. Anyway, strange position.
Knight f4 is another idea black might have on his mind. Might have. Yeah, because if you take, pawn takes looks very good for black, right?
All right, so for starters in this situation, I know I'm self-pinion the f2 pawn, but I castle.
Okay.
No, what can I do? You know, I need to do something. Well, my plan, if I have a luxury of making plans in this position, is to play king h1 and go f4, if I survive that long. I mean, if my bishop on d5 survives that long.
Yeah, well, that's a position rich with possibilities, and I have to say, I don't know how this unfolds. I don't know what the evaluation is. Can we check something that is like approaches the end, or because people say Nihal Sarin is in a bad position? So it's board 26, a young Indian player, the youngest from India, the youngest participant here in the World Cup. Well, people in the chat, you have to be a bit more serious. I don't see.
How is that so bad?
How it's so bad for black, yeah.
No, right, so he's given back his pawn. He already gave it back.
Down on the clock. I mean, this is a thing not to like. That's 7 minutes left. That's something to be worried about. But yeah.
But I don't know, I wouldn't be so dejected if I were Nihal's fan. I mean, this whole game to be played. I mean, unless we're not talking some knight g5 or anything.
Knight g5, knight e5, I don't see how to...
obviously.
Don't see the follow-up. Yeah. Maybe bishop g5, rook moves, but then I'm not sure what's the follow-up there. Rook d1 I was hoping for, but then you just take on e5, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In this case, no, queen d1?
Well
yeah, so
I don't know,
d1,
no, but it is rook d1, does not
rook
appeal
f
to
to
me
d1 doesn't appeal, really.
Yeah, somebody said, now at chess club, you never play rook fd1. We are tacticking here.
We are not allowed, yeah.
Yeah, now at chess club, no rook fd1, ever.
But he's visibly nervous, I have to say. Did White play something?
White did something, okay, but...
Updated? No, not yet.
Well...
We don't have the move for white, but it's clear that it's black to move. I mean, looking at Nihal, he's clearly... And queen g4.
Jump to g4 and reply to some move.
Yeah, white did something, after which black
went
queen
was not
g4.
bishop g5, because I can see that square open even before the gentleman in the white shirt. You know who we never visited today? Boris Gelfand.
Boris Gelfand, but yesterday we also were not looking at him that precisely. It's not one of our, let's say, key matches. Okay, if there is something interesting, you can show us. But
no, it's a good matchup with Maxim Matlakov.
As well as other 31 match.
No, yeah, that's true. But out of respect, to the oldest player and still.
But that was right below Nihal's.
Yeah,
then.
There was somewhere. You're right. Yeah, we went too far. Oh. Some positional battles stemming out of a sideline of the English with the move e4. And it didn't stay closed forever. They started opening it up, and now it's not completely blown wide open, pawn structure-wise, but it's getting there. And pretty hard for white to count for any advantage here with the passive knight on e2, and the pawn on b4 hanging. Doesn't look super promising for white, put it this way. It's not like white is in trouble, I'm not claiming that, but it's just...
why do we...
I don't know why we spend the time on this, we go elsewhere.
Absolutely, because I was advised that it's not for nothing we cannot find a move for Nakamura in this game. Again, sorry to return to this, but I just got confirmation that Nisipiano is actually winning again with black. His position is winning. I don't know if he's going to win, but...
Well, it doesn't surprise me, actually, because he's...
Yeah, and he just played this c4, so it might be like just, 2-0 against Nakamura, against the yellow favorite. Well done, Livio Dieter. I mean, okay, the game is not over, but black
No, we saw already
better.
some variations that confirm this evaluation. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Black
I mean, it's always
better.
nice to receive a pat in the back from the engines, but indeed, no, this is what happened. So, too early to draw any conclusions, but knight h4 was Nakamura's choice.
Yeah.
He moved the knight away from the center. That opened up this possibility for d5, d4. The move of 3 you didn't like because it was too slow. You advocated g4 immediately.
Yeah, it's like as an idea. I'm not claiming that g4 was like the move you play, really, but...
But sometimes you advocate certain ideas because your gut feeling is that you must act. And seemingly that Nakamura didn't act fast enough. And that's why it's black now who's attacking. And white... No,
really?
The bishop never moved from f1.
Honestly, I don't even see...
I looked at before then.
Yeah, like what move you have to play. The b4, d3, just positionally is a disaster because you will never ever be able to take c
We never
takes,
took with the pawn.
But then c takes, again, c takes b3, yeah, well...
I suppose we're not taking a whole lot here on account. Just
b2, b2 check and
wins
mate
material.
in feud.
Bishop a3
Bishop a3
wins more material and with faster
yeah.
mate. Out of the question. No, cd4 is completely unplayable. Rook takes d4 has been played. All right. We have concluded with help of from knowledgeable sources that no need to
queen
take the
a5,
pawn on a3. It may be the queen that will do the better job on a3. So queen a5 probably not going to be missed by Nisipiano.
Yeah, I think so.
Fairly obvious move. You move the queen out and you hit a pawn with check. And I think that once this move is played on the board within a minute or two, Hikaru is going to take longer time.
Yeah, and people who suggest h6 for Naka in the chat, it's like you're doing good thing, guys, like right thing, but not in the right moment, because he had to try for kingside initiative long time ago, and now he's already not in the position to do it. He has actually taken on d4, Nisipiano is thinking, so rook d4 is played.
I know. That's why I said that it will probably take Livio Dieter maybe a minute or two to play queen a5, because it seems like the most obvious move and it's good. So Hikaru will be back on his turn and probably thinking a lot.
So you mean queen a5? Well, I'm not sure if you can call it like the most obvious move, because most obvious move is take pawn with a check. I mean, that's the first thing we tried. Indeed, if you stop and think and you understand queen a5, you will, in many variations, take with the queen. Then of course, yeah, it's easy to realize how powerful queen a5 move is.
Yeah, but sometimes, at least in my case, well, I start off not with the best moves, even if I see a better move. I'm just trying to lead to it. Well, if bishop takes a3, well, unless, we're down to 1 second, we're not going to play it that quick.
Yeah.
In real life, of course.
So
we'll look at that. But
20 minutes for Nisipiano. People discuss queen sacrifice in the chat. I don't really see queen sacrifice.
Take on d4.
And why would you need queen sacrifice at first place if you're almost winning after queen a5? Yeah.
All right. To the game that is not really exciting on the board, but no, obviously implications because Chaparinov is a must-win situation. How do you rate his chances in this endgame against Vladislav Artemiev?
Will depend on the very next move. Because if you can play rook c8, bishop d5 and enter this sequence and somehow bail out your way out of it, it's one thing. If you are not, white plays king e3, king d4, and it's terrible. But this one is a pawn down, right? Just takes on c5, takes on b7. Then I don't rate his. I mean, then I rate his chances quite decent. Yeah?
No, and then the move
and then a4.
The move we expect.
But b takes a4.
Yeah,
still
b4.
up a pawn.
Oh, certainly.
That's very good winning chances, if not just outright winning.
Yeah, because the king is playing and all that.
I mean, but white has nothing to worry whatsoever.
No.
So, and if you don't have rook c8, then it means white will be able to play king e3, king d4, and then it's like really scary.
Yes, indeed.
Because if there is any positional idea you want to avoid, is the white's king's appearance on d4 in this position. Because then if, like, effectively, you're just a pawn down, and white doesn't even take the pawn on d5. He's just moving his c and b pawns and wins.
No, well, yes, of course, because the dominating position of the king is often a decisive factor. I moved the mouse to that square that beckons. Mm-hmm. All right. What else is there? Grishuk's game did not bring any particular developments to us. I mean, yeah, white tried to do something to win over the A file. No, didn't quite get there yet. And even if he does, with the disappearance of the last pair of knights, I think the game is drifting toward a draw.
Game.
All right, return to the source. Okay, Kasimdzhanov winning.
Yeah, Kasimdzhanov with Mamedyarov. So Queen b6 check was the moment we had seen it, right? I was trying to make some attempts to win on a spot. Yeah, but King f1 apparently is like a better version of it.
Yeah.
And Rook to c1.
The point being, you know, that you protect c3 and you still keep the black queen away from defensive duties. Mm-hmm. Now, the rook, it's not like rook c2 is necessary improvement. The purpose of the move rook c2 is to free up the white queen for bigger and better things.
On the other hand, the queen is free because the bishop from h6 protects the rook already.
That's
so now,
thing,
for instance, in the line that we were looking at in the other variation, knight e4, and f5, white is just winning. He goes queen h5 and it should be made in a few moves.
You don't even have to give up your second rook
to
create to compete for brilliancy prize. Okay, so what do? We still cannot touch the rook.
I don't know if you do anything in this position. It's just terrible.
What makes it sad, you know, that if black had to play this bishop takes f2, he gave up his material advantage, and now white is playing the same position that he was perfectly willing to give up a rook for.
Yeah, at some point white should have been a rook down, yeah?
Yeah, and now he's doing this thing.
And it's not only you return the extra piece, but you're also getting rid of one of the potential defenders of the dark squares.
Yeah.
So, bishop f2, the moment Shahryar played bishop f2, well, and people in chat were saying that this is wrong.
Yet, you know, if you look at the clock, Kasimdzhanov is down to 7 minutes, which perhaps was overkill for him to spend that much time, unless he figured everything out. No,